Hi, I'm Jesse Grimes, and right now I'm in Chandler, Arizona, near the Phoenix area, and what you can see behind me is a permaculture project I recently finished in this backyard. So in this video I'd like to give you a tour of this project and show you how by using permaculture design you can grow food anywhere, even in the harsh environment of the Arizona desert. So let's go take a look. So when we started this project, this backyard was basically a blank slate. It was dirt, a lot of weeds popping up, some suckers from the shoestring acacias back there popping up in the yard. And there were some major drainage issues with the way this lot was graded. So when it rained, when the monsoons came through, dropped a lot of rain at once, the yard sloped towards the house and it would flood the porch area back here and threaten to flood the kitchen inside the house. So we had to do some major reshaping this yard. We brought a small machine in and we were able to move some of that dirt around. So by applying permaculture principles to the way we did that earthworks, we were able to capture rainwater, which helps water these trees. Let me show you how we did that. So what you see me standing in now is a basin. We lowered this part of the yard, took the dirt from here and moved it to the other corner of the yard. And not only does that create some texture in the backyard, making it a little bit more interesting, it also creates a low spot for all that water to collect, soak into the soil, and store underground so that these trees, which we planted here, can access that water through the summertime when there isn't any rain. Now another thing that happens when you create texture in the backyard is you create different microclimates. So this is going to be lower, it's going to tend to be wetter. The other area, the tire, is going to tend to be a little bit drier, maybe a little bit cooler because it's behind a wall, it's shaded over there. So these different microclimates give us the opportunity to grow different types of plants that might not otherwise have grown in this backyard. So even in a desert environment like the one here in Phoenix, where you get maybe 6 to 9 inches of rain every year, we still have a tremendous potential to capture thousands of gallons of rainwater off of our rooftops. So we've installed gutters at this house, and this gutter is going to drain into that basin. All that water is going to be allowed to soak in and water these trees. It's going to be stored underground. We could store it in a tank, but tanks are expensive. They take up space, and you really can't store that much water in a tank, maybe 500 gallons. This way we can store thousands of gallons under the ground here, where the trees can get to it. So another thing we've done in this backyard, as you can see, we've covered the entire backyard in wood chip mulch. This is mulch that we got delivered by the truckload from tree trimming companies. And this mulch serves several purposes. Not only does it look nice, but it helps to hold water down into the soil. It's like a blanket covering the soil, keeping the sun from heating it up and evaporating all that water that we just stored. Another function is it adds organic matter. You see, we just put this mulch down a couple weeks ago, and already it's starting to break down into soil. So over the years, this mulch is going to break down into some really rich soil, some really nice humus. And as these fruit trees grow, their roots are going to come out and they're going to be able to capture those nutrients. So we're not only helping to store the water, we're not only making the backyard look nice, but we're also helping to feed these trees over the years. This is the way that trees naturally create soil for themselves. They drop their leaves on the ground, they create their own mulch. So we're copying what nature does in our suburban environment so we can help grow our own food. So because of the way the mulch holds water in the soil, our watering needs are going to be much lower. We're going to save money on our water bill. We planted these trees about a month ago and we haven't had to water them since because it's rained a couple times, a little bit of rain, but mostly because of this mulch in here. The soil inside this basin is still moist, still holding on to water, and these plants are doing just fine without being watered for over a month. Now in the summertime, we might have to water them a little bit more, but not nearly as much as if we didn't have the mulch. So even though it is very hot and dry here in the summertime, the fact that we don't get a lot of frost allows us to grow a really wide variety of trees here in Phoenix. So in this backyard, we've got a few different kinds. This here is a pomegranate, really nice, pretty drought tolerant fruit tree. Citrus does really well here. This is a Meyer lemon. We've had to put this guard on the trunk to keep the trunk from being sunburnt until the leaves fill in. Over here, this is a desert gold peach. This was planted as bare root, so it was just a little stick when we planted it about a month ago, and it's already gotten to leaf out this much. Over here This is a dwarf tangela, really delicious citrus fruit. This is going to be a little bit smaller since it is a dwarf rootstock, but it'll fill in between these other trees. We've also got some other variety of fruiting plants that aren't trees. Along these walls, I've put trellises, just these simple wires that run along the walls, and we've got grapes. These grapes are going to grow out along those wires, and you're going to have a nice harvest of fruit in the summertime. We've also got, this is a fruiting mulberry bush. So this is going to grow into a large bush, about 8 feet tall. Really delicious little berries that the kids can come back and eat on when they're playing back here. We've also got some strawberries under here. And right here, you might not be able to see, but there's this really small tree right here. This is a moringa tree. This is actually an edible tree. The leaves are edible, the pods are edible. And it also grows very quickly, so even though it's small right now, it's going to grow up to be 8 to 10 feet tall this year, and even taller next year. And that's going to help provide shade for the rest of these trees as they grow and get established, until they're strong enough to grow on their own in the harsh summer times we get here in Phoenix. Now over in this corner, we've got a goji berry plant. This is a really good, delicious, high quality, nutritious berry that's pretty drought tolerant. So I put it up on this higher part of the yard, a little bit higher, a little bit drier. And once it's established, it won't need much watering at all. What we've also done in this backyard is planted a variety of flowering bushes, things that are going to attract in pollinators, bees, and butterflies, and other insects, which are going to help pollinate our fruit trees and ensure that we get a good crop of fruit. So we've got some lavenders, we've got some Mexican honeysuckle, and these are drought-tolerant flowering plants that work well here in the desert. We've got a variety of these plants spread throughout the yard so that there's color, and we're also attracting those beneficial insects into our backyard. So down in this little basin here, this is actually another lower part of the yard, which we've sunk to allow water to sink in and water the plants that we put in here. This is a little kind of a herb garden right next to the kitchen. Right in here is the kitchen, so they can step right outside their door, get some oregano, get some mint, get some lemon balm, and use that in their cooking. It's also going to provide flowers for those pollinators like we talked about before. It's also possible to grow a traditional veggie garden just about anywhere. We've got dogs in this backyard, so I've had to install a gate to keep them out of here. But we've been able to install a really nice veggie garden to help the kids learn how to grow their own food. So where I'm standing now, this is also another one of those lower basins in which we can collect rainwater off of this roof. We've got the wood chip mulch on it. This is going to help keep that water into the soil and allow it to soak into this garden bed. Now we've just planted this bed recently with starts and seeds, so as those seeds get a little bit taller, we'll have room to put this mulch onto the garden bed as well. That's going to help hold that water into the soil. We've also got a variety of different plants. They're all mixed together. And what that does is it confuses the bugs. If there's a line of tomatoes, all those tomato bugs just see, ooh, a buffet. They're going to go right down and eat those tomatoes. But if they're mixed in with other plants, they're going to have a harder time finding those plants. We've also got a variety of companion plants, different flowering bushes and herbs, which attract beneficial insects into the garden. They also provide smells that some of the pests don't like all these onions right here. We've planted a row of these along the front of the garden. A lot of pests don't like the smell of onions. It'll keep them out of your garden. So also along the back of this wall, see we've got another kind of a raised part of the bed here. That's some of the dirt that we pulled out of this basin. Put it up there, create a little bit of texture. And we've also planted a variety of different herbs and flowering plants, again to attract those beneficial insects, attract the pollinators, and give habitat for those insects to stay throughout the year. All the ones back here are perennials. So a lot of those predator insects that you want to attract into your garden to eat your aphids, to eat your caterpillars, they need habitat throughout the year. They actually need pollen as a food source and a place to hide and feel safe. So having these perennial plants back here, which are always here throughout the year, will give them a place to live. And that will ensure that they don't leave, that they stay in your garden, they stay there to help you out. As you can see, we've also installed shade fabric over this garden, and that's to help lower the temperature during the really hot summer months. We've also got this really bright white wall up against the house. This is reflecting heat onto the garden, so the shade fabric is going to help with that. In the wintertime, this wall is actually going to help keep this garden from suffering from frost. We may need to put greenhouse fabric or greenhouse plastic over it in the wintertime to help warm it up and keep it from getting frost damage. But it's real easy to install, just these nice hoops out of PVC, and we can control the temperature in our garden and ensure that we have food production all year round. So those are just a few of the ways in which permaculture design can be applied to this environment and this context. In your environment, your climate, and your context, it might look a little bit different, but the principles are the same. So I hope you've enjoyed this tour and learned a little bit. If you want to learn more about my services, you can go out to earthcaredesign.com. Thank you for watching.